Imagine a paradise, a vibrant jewel nestled in the Caribbean, a bustling port town nicknamed the Paris of the Caribbean. Saint-Pierre, Martinique, at the turn of the 20th century, was a place of beauty, culture, and prosperity, home to over 30,000 souls. Its backdrop was the majestic Mont Pelée, a volcano that for generations had been a silent, picturesque guardian, occasionally grumbling, spitting a little ash, but never truly threatening. Locals were used to its moods, even picnicking by the shimmering lake within its summit crater. Life was good, secure, predictable, but beneath that serene surface, something was stirring. In April of 1902, the mountain began to speak louder. Steam hissed, loud noises echoed, and the air grew thick with the acrid smell of sulfur. A fine, persistent ash began to fall, dusting everything in a ghostly gray. Daily life in Saint-Pierre became a struggle, a constant reminder of the giant awakening above them. An expedition was sent to investigate, and they returned with a chilling discovery: a new crater bubbling with sulfuric water, an ash cone pushing through its surface. Yet the official word was baffling. This sudden burst of activity was deemed of great scientific interest, but of no real concern to the residents. The local newspaper, Le Colony, became a relentless voice of reassurance, printing editorials that mocked anyone who dared express fear or even consider leaving. Where could one be better off right now than Saint-Pierre? They confidently declared. But the mountain did not listen to editorials. By early May, the stench of sulfur was so overpowering that people had to cover their faces to breathe. Horses collapsed in the streets, suffocated by the fumes. Then came the animals, a terrifying exodus from the mountain's flanks: giant centipedes. Venomous pit vipers swarming into the town. Over 50 people died from snake bites alone in those desperate days. The town was a landscape of ash, littered with the corpses of birds and domestic animals. Yet most people stayed, clinging to the reassurances of experts. On May 5th, Mont Pelée unleashed a terrifying preview. A giant river of superheated mud, a lahar, surged down the mountainside, engulfing a sugarcane factory and killing 30 workers before plunging into the sea, causing a small tsunami that washed over Saint-Pierre. Bizarrely, some saw this as the volcano's final act, a catharsis. Surely now, things would return to normal. But a darker force was at play. With local elections looming, Governor Louis Moutet was desperate to keep his voting base in town. He needed Saint-Pierre to appear calm, safe. When news arrived on May 6th of a devastating eruption on the neighboring island of St. Vincent, killing 1,500 people, panic finally erupted in Saint-Pierre. A mass exodus began. The governor's response? Not evacuation, but troops. Roadblocks were set up, forcing terrified residents back into the doomed city. To further quell their fears, on the evening of May 7th, the governor and his family moved into Saint-Pierre, a chilling act of false bravado, leading by example straight into the jaws of death. Meanwhile, Mont Pelée was preparing its final, furious roar. Enormous black clouds billowed from its summit, pierced by arcs of lightning. Ash covered everything, and red-hot magma glowed at the crater rim, turning an entire side of the mountain into a fiery beacon. Then, on the morning of May 8th, at precisely 7:52 a.m., the world ended for Saint-Pierre. Mont Pelée exploded. There was no warning. An eyewitness on a ship offshore described it. The side of the volcano was ripped out and hurled towards us, a solid wall of flame. The wave of fire was on us like a lightning flash, a hurricane of fire, which rolled straight down on Saint-Pierre and the ships. The town vanished before our eyes. It was a pyroclastic flow, a burning cloud of white-hot particles, superheated steam, and poisonous gas, traveling at 100 meters per second, with temperatures reaching 1,000 degrees Celsius. People were vaporized instantly, burned to cinders. Those who survived the initial blast endured moments of unimaginable agony, their skin peeling, blood boiling, suffocating on toxic gas. On the ships in the harbor, men on deck were peppered with red-hot fragments, literally baked alive. Men who jumped into the sea heard their own flesh sizzle as they drowned. Of 18 vessels, only one remained in any condition to sail. Saint-Pierre was gone. A heap of smoking rubble, walls torn down, metal roofs ripped off, trees stripped to bare trunks. Charred bodies lay everywhere. No sign of life, a witness reported. Not one single living soul was to be seen in this desert of desolation. 30,000 lives extinguished in mere seconds. Incredibly, 2 people survived. Leon Leandre, a 28-year-old shoemaker, somehow made it by running indoors, though others in the same room perished. His survival remains a mystery. The other was Augustus Saparis, a 25-year-old stevedore awaiting execution in the town jail. His cell, built with massive, thick walls and tiny windows, was one of the few structures to withstand the blast. He remembered a sudden darkness, a searing heat, and the smell of his own burning flesh. Terribly burned, he waited 3 days in that red-hot cell until he was freed. Reprieved from his death sentence, he lived out his days as a circus attraction, the survivor of Saint-Pierre, complete with a replica of the cell that saved his life. Mont Pelée erupted again on May 20th, coinciding with an earthquake that killed another 2,000 people. That was enough for the remaining inhabitants of Martinique, who fled to neighboring islands. For months, the volcano continued its activity, even forming a spectacular 330-meter lava spine, the Tower of Pelée, a fleeting natural wonder as tall as the Eiffel Tower, glowing red at night before collapsing under its own weight within a year. A few intrepid souls eventually returned to Saint-Pierre, clinging to the dream of rebuilding. The population slowly grew to about 1,000, but the mountain had one more lesson to teach. In September of 1929, Pelée erupted again, sending another pyroclastic cloud towards the new town. This time, there were no elections, no governor to stop them. The people, having learned the bitter lesson of 1902, read the signs and evacuated. Mont Pelée claimed not a single victim. The tragedy of Saint-Pierre is a haunting reminder of nature's raw power, but also of the devastating cost of human arrogance, political ambition, and the willful blindness to clear warnings. It is a story that echoes through time, urging us to listen, to learn, and to never underestimate the forces beyond our control.